Hey everybody, welcome to today's transmission. I want to share some channel messages that came through regarding art and resources that enable you to create art and lack thereof those resources and how you manage that, and also about following divine guidance around where you prioritize your activity and what you put aside, and how that is related to your soul's purpose that you're being guided to in every moment, and your ability to listen to that. So you might hear the messages but not follow through on it because your logical mind is conflicting and telling you that, yeah, but down here in the real world, if I don't do that and that doesn't get done, then that there's going to be a mess. It's not going to be pretty. These things need to be done as part of a business or part of my life or part of living in a house or whatever it is. And the message that came through from the guides around that. So what's happening, I'll just give you a bit of background, is over the last few weeks of the full moon lunar eclipse supermoon 999 portal that it was on Tuesday, Wednesday. So leading up to that and since then, climaxing at that point, I've been bringing a lot of energies in around really bringing the masculine and feminine energies together. So that inspiration, that divine inspiration, that divine flow, that creative flow into the physical reality, which is directed, the container that holds it, that directs it, that pushes it in a focused direction, which is the masculine. And when you're a creative, it's often hard to do both of those if you're in a creative field or your soul purpose is creative, because all those practical level things need to be done. One is very left brain and one's very right brained. And also you're so full of the creative inspiration. And when it's energy work as well, it can be quite overwhelming and it can take over your physical body. So yesterday was one of those days for me where I was able to get rid of all the distractions and let myself just do the creative work. And with that, the energy comes in around the purpose. So part of that is you need resources to do your creative work. So you need money to buy your supplies, you need money to pay your bills. And if all of your time is going into the creation, how do they get taken care of? And how do you make enough money to cover all of that? And so these are the practical real world issues of those that have come in with that sole purpose of creating energy art or creative work that inspires and uplifts people, or any creative work at all, or really any work at all to some point. So my feet were tingling, my body was just having to release all this energy all the time. I felt a bit like in the Marvel movies where Captain Marvel is just in this fiery bubble of light. That's how I felt all day, and so I kept dropping in and out of channel as I was bringing those energies into the artworks. And so I will share some of the messages that came through directly to me at the end, in terms of I will express in my own words what came through. But I'm going to share with you now is the direct channel that I recorded. And it was having a discussion with somebody else about feeling lately like, even though there's so much on a practical level that needs to be done, I've just got this really strong feeling that I need to just not do it, because then no one will come in to do it. The universe won't send anyone in to do it. And I know that I'm not supposed to be doing that stuff, some of the practical things around living and business and life. Somebody else is supposed to be doing that. And as I was trying to speak, my words kept dropping out. I kept going blank, and then I realised that I was changing channel because it would start to, if you're changing the dial on a radio, you start to get these other words coming in from the other frequency. So that's what started to happen. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's a channel coming through. So my art guides, and they were still here with me, and they were listening, and they decided to answer the questions. So here we go. Here's the first one about following those strong feelings and knowings and guidance that come through regardless of what needs to be done on the ground, and trusting that it is covered in the big picture within that. So you'll hear a bit of light language at the beginning as the connection is made and as the light codes start to come through, and then the message. There's a message coming through saying abundance. They're using the word becalls, which I don't think is a word. Abundance becalls you. Befalls you? Do you mean befalls you? Yes, befalls you. Okay. But it's a play on words because it calls us. Abundance calls us, not we're calling it. And it befalls us. There is a message coming through. All right. Ayatia kaya ko taya kia taya kaya kaya. Akaya tia koya kaya kaya. Akaya tia koya kaya tia koya taya yo 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 tia kaya ya taya. In the unfolding of the abundant spectrums that befall you now, you are counting your blessings, and this counting of blessings calls you forward into further abundance. Your decision to take action only on that which you are inspired to do is the right decision and the right direction. The resources you require will be provided. There is no need to concern yourself regarding this. Akataya kaya kai. Akataya kaya kaya tia kaya kaya. Akataya kotoya kaya tia kaya. Akataya toya kaya tia kaya ya ia taya yo yo. Aya tia kaya yo toi tia kaya to. Tia ya toya kaya taya ia taya ia tia ia tai. The remembrance of the work and the light codes that you have come here to direct towards humanity, the ascension process and the earth grids, is directing you from your higher selves and directing your inspired action. Therefore, following this is what brings you further gifts, further understanding, and further progress. Denying it reduces your ability to move forward efficiently and effectively, and does actually resist the ascension process and your part in it. Yield, surrender to your higher processes, your higher wisdom, and allow it to carry you forward into the spectrums of bliss and joy that you are heading towards when you follow your inspired action, aligned to your soul purpose that beckons you forward. End of transmission. So if you're listening to this transmission now, if you found your way to this, I feel that that message was for you. And if you are receiving it, then you've also received light codes around that theme and that imperative, really, from your art guides or your healing guides. You need to self-care after that, allow yourself to receive them, drink water, listen to your bodies, rest when you need to. Some people need to sleep after they've received light codes like that. And if you do, then it's best if you can allow the time to do that and the space to do that. So there were a couple of paintings that I was primarily working on all day yesterday when I was in this high vibrational state and pouring light codes through into the earth and the earth grids and into the artworks. And these were based on some projects I've been doing over the last couple of weeks, I'm creating an online workshop. I'm going to have several standalone workshops and the practitioner training, the Transformational Ascension Art Practitioner training, which is a larger, longer program that's going to be certified. But meanwhile, I'm just putting up the standalone workshops and that anyone can do. And the first one is really about that connection between those creative processes and the practical level, and that means money. So I'm doing a series around clearing money programs that are restrictive or preventing you from really stepping into your creative work as a way of living, as a way of life, that really facilitates you doing your soul's purpose, and clearing any of the detrimental limiting beliefs that are drummed into us around you can't make money that way, or that's not what you're supposed to do, or the very masculine oriented 9-to-5 kind of models that some of us may have been depleted by, things like that. And now is the time, I feel, to really step out into those. So if you're interested in that workshop, I'll put the links below. It's not ready yet. I was just creating it over the last few weeks. But the other piece I was working on was Shambhala. And Shambhala is the place that as soon as I started creating workshops, I've been doing them on Patreon for the last year, as live workshops. What started to emerge from the background of the artworks, not just me, but also the people taking the workshop, was these blue and purple mountains. And then it turned out to be Shambhala. And the more I deepened into it, the more workshops we did, the more I understood we were always going to Shambhala. The guides were always taking us to Shambhala or Shangri-La. And this is a higher dimensional place where the ascended masters, guides, angels can all come from their various different levels of frequency and dimension, and humans can come in their astral. So those incarnated can come in their astral to that place. It's a place of learning. It's a place where we connect with those higher guides and teachers. And that's where we do our energy art or our transformational ascension art workshops and trainings. And we are connected to our guides and they direct us. So I was painting that. So I had a lot of messages come through, and what I would like to share with you around that is that they talked about how they've guided me to specific paints and things like that to finish off my paintings with. So at the moment I'm doing acrylic paintings, and I've had this experience and frustration of not being able to complete the paintings because they energetically weren't ready to be created, but also it wasn't time yet because I'm following a pattern. All of the creations are connected to each other. They have energies connected to each other. They're following planetary cycles. They're following evolutionary cycles. And I'm moving those energies through as well through my life. So as those energies are moving through, the next level of the painting can be done. And just recently, just before this eclipse portal, I was guided to get some water-based oil paints to finish off the acrylic painting with. And they were telling me the reason for that. So the reason is that because the colour has more mobility within the oil medium rather than the acrylic medium, to mobilise, to move. It therefore transmits better the frequency that's coming through the artist into the artwork in a way that it is received even better by the recipient. So the other thing that popped through was there was an activation, and this felt like a collective activation of the third eye, where now the threshold of mainstream, of the collective. The threshold of the collective is higher in terms of energetic dimension that they can see and feel within the artworks. I've been feeling very frustrated at wanting to be able to see visually the dimension and the scope and the vastness and the multi-layered dimensions within the artworks that I was creating. And I was able to see that at a whole new level, energetically. But this feels like a shift, that it's more visible to everybody else. So with that, Shambhala itself is also becoming more visible to more people. It's always been sacred and hidden. And only certain levels of people could get in to work with the guides of Seven Masters. And it's like it's more visible now to more people. And so are our artworks. So are the dimensions within our artworks. So that came through. But also, yes, using that medium, the reason they guided me to that was because that enables the receiver, even if they're not at that level where they can see that dimension, to receive that light codes from it better. It's not necessary for them to receive it. They can receive it anyway, but it just facilitates that. So the other thing that I'd kind of like to share is they were speaking about not comparing your art to anybody else at all, ever. Because the frequency you're bringing through is your frequency, and that has purpose, and that is needed for that purpose on this planet, and it has value in itself. It doesn't need to look like anybody else's art. It doesn't need to be of the quality of anyone else's art, and especially not to compare yourself across mediums and styles, because that's their style, and their style is there for a reason and appeals to the people it needs to appeal to, and so does yours. So don't try and just don't compare it to anyone else. Just really let it come through as authentic to you. And I think probably the last thing that I'll share for today is that what I noticed is that when I was actively creating the art and in that channel, the practical steps came through really clearly from within me as to what to do on the ground that are the next steps. So, for example, what to put on my website, where to put it, what to share, what to blog, how to explain it, the words to explain it, the images to use. It all just was downloaded, mapped out in front of me like the artworks are. So the way you create your art is the way you create your life. If you're channeling art, you're also channeling the practical steps in your life. And that then takes us full circle back to that first message, which was about following your guidance in terms of where you put your energy and your attention and your focus. The others will be taken care of as part of that. You will attract the right people to come in and help. It will just work, but you have to yield, you have to surrender to that and really trust this process and what you're here for. And, I'm aware that I might have held that belief or understood that belief intellectually in the past, and then maybe relinquished income and things like that. And I might have ended up in debt because I was trusting someone to come and save me. But this, like the universe to step in and save me so that I could do this thing. But if you're not at that stage where you're really fully embodying that guidance, and you haven't haven't been guided until then to put certain things in place, there's a difference between unconsciously just dropping all responsibility and really embodying that knowing that says this is the step you need to take, and that this is what you need to let go of. So just be aware there is a balance between that, but when it's a knowing and you know it, it's detrimental not to follow that. So that's my closing message. And if you want to know any more, I am on Patreon, and I'll put my website details down below as well. Blessings, everybody. See you next time.